Hello and welcome to the final episode of 2024 of Fully Blooming. It is New Year's Eve and I've just jumped out of the shower. So if you're watching the video, hence why my hair's soaked, and I just wanted to get it done before the celebrations begin. And this has been, I feel like I always say this, but I feel like this has been an episode that I has been brewing in my mind. And if you've been listening to the last few episodes, there's been a lot of guests on, which has been absolutely incredible. And I've loved sharing the space with them and their experiences, their insights, their wisdom. And at the same time, I also really missed doing my solo episodes and seeing what came out because they were as useful for myself as they, I believe, are to you and those who listen, from the feedback that I've been getting anyway. And I think this time of year, this post-Christmas, that weird time between Christmas and New Year, if you celebrate Christmas, is always a very strange time. And I think we watched the film That Christmas, which I think is going to be my new regular yearly film. And in it, Santa Claus says, Christmas is a time that magnifies whatever is already there, or something along those lines. And it just really struck true because if you are feeling sad or emotional or grieving, for some reason, this time of year really brings that up. But at the same time, if you're really excited and grateful and joyful, it will also magnify that. And I cry every Christmas. It's just a guarantee. And that really kind of sat with me and really resonated because it just felt so true. And for someone to have put the words and to put that experience into words like that so beautifully really stuck with me. So I also wanted to share that with you in case there is that kind of potential beating ourselves up of, why do I struggle at this time of year? Or, I haven't, or comparison definitely comes into play, which is also why I'm so glad I'm not on Instagram anymore, not even on my private either. And I think, I'm not going to lie, these last 2.5 weeks have been probably some of the hardest of the year for me this year. And I briefly wanted to share a little bit about that because I think there's so many of us who go through this process that I know it's not an inevitable process, but it's definitely a process that lots of people go through. And I wanted to share a little bit about my experience of it and kind of coming out the other side of it. And I'm not going to put any labels on it of what it was or, yeah, kind of, I'm just going to share the experience and you can take from it what you want. And I think what I want to say is if you're in a very scary place at the moment, scary, dark place, trust that you will come out the other side. And if you can't trust, let me tell you that there is hope. There is something to continue going on for. There is something on the other side of all of this. And to briefly summarize, and my friend summarized this perfectly for me, she was like, "Oh, your mind has taken you hostage." That was the premise of the last few weeks. And it was getting to the point where I was waking up and instantly my mind was like overrun with thoughts. And it was incredibly intense. And I think a couple of mornings ago, or maybe even yesterday morning, I woke up and instantly my brain was awash with so many different thoughts. And I just lay there for 20 minutes in complete and utter paralysis. I couldn't move my body, I couldn't do anything. And it was this utter, as my friend said, hostage situation. I didn't feel that I could do anything. And eventually I got up and I was like, okay, what's the next thing I can do? And it was go and eat something, go and find a EFT tapping video on YouTube, do some yoga, go outside. It was very human, physical things that I had to do. And it's about breaking that pattern, right? It is about rather than going deep into the thought process and, oh, where did that thought come from? Or why do I believe that about myself? When you get to that point where you literally are kind of at breaking point and you don't know what else to do, that you have to break the pattern and there has to be something that gets you out of your head and into your body. And in those moments, it is one of the hardest things that you can do. And when you're in full flow, yes, of course you'll do, I don't know, for me it's yoga and at the moment EFT and running and being outside. That for me and food as well. Like making sure I'm eating enough and the right foods and for me in this moment at this time and not getting hungry, which leads to hunger. But it's when you're in that flow, it is so easy to do those things because you're like, yeah, I just want to keep feeling like this. I want to, accentuate this feeling. If I'm already feeling amazing, how much more amazing can I feel? And what I found, and I know from talking with people, is that when you're in this position of complete and utter overwhelm with the amount of thoughts that are running through your mind, it is so hard to just do that one thing. And because your mind will convince you that it's not going to help, it's not going to change anything. And it is, yeah, I completely get how hard it is to get yourself out of that cycle and out of for me, it's complete shame and self-doubt, no self-worth, no self-confidence, no nothing. And I know that when my mind gets that loud, it's usually when I have postponed a decision. And because for me, making decisions is very gut instinct, it's that very yes or no, full body yes. And I had a decision to make 3 weeks ago, and I said, think about it. And I gave myself the space and the time, or I gave my mind the space and the time to then go into every single avenue. And if you've been listening to my podcast from the beginning, you'll know that I am all about intuition. So you're probably asking, why on earth, Ola, did you do that? And there was something within me that didn't feel safe in following my intuition in that moment. And so, as I was saying earlier, I know that when my mind gets incredibly loud like that, it's because it's trying to protect me from something and it feels that blah, 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 that it deems unsafe. And when I kind of give it that space, I'm like, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to go through the pros and cons and I'm going to sit with it and contemplate it and meditate on it and everything rather than just following that initial instinct and say yes or no. Then that's when my brain gets a field day. And at the same time, because I know that it's protecting me from something that it deems unsafe, there is something to uncover there that is, okay, why do I feel that that situation or that thing or that decision is unsafe? And the things that have come up over the last 2.5, 3 weeks have been insane. So not only just kind of self-worth things within me and within this kind of lifetime. And if you're here still with me, then you'll know that past lives, Akashic records, all of that spiritual stuff is completely me and is the work that I do. So this has also been something that I've been kind of hiding again. I'm like, oh, but people don't might not believe in that, or it doesn't matter. This is my belief, and you can listen or you can't, and that is not my choice. But I am doing it. I'm sharing these things from what I believe is an incredibly loving place, and because it has helped me so much to understand so much about myself, that is also why I'm sharing my experiences of this so that it's not so scary, it's not so out there. And I think 2025 is the year that it's just going to become completely commonplace to talk about these things in a lot of places. So, anyway, side note, but for me, so many past lives came up, so much energy work that I worked through with the help of a dear friend and my energy therapist and my mum because because I'm here with her at the moment, and really looking at it from all angles of, okay, this is the situation and what can I do to allow myself to move through it. And at times there were times where I simply didn't want to move through it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be in victim mode and I'm going to I don't it's comfortable in a way. It feels safe even though my mind is going a billion miles an hour. And there were times in the last, I think, week or so, or maybe longer, that I have not been able to go to sleep because my mind is racing. And I have almost been like, I've been screaming into pillows, like screaming at my mind to shut up, to stop talking, to, because it just, oh no. And there have been nights where I have not been able to get to sleep because my mind is racing so much, and I've been screaming into pillows and like whacking my head into a pillow saying, I like, please shut up. I can't do this anymore. And asking for help from anywhere. And I think for me, the scariest part of all of this is how out of control I feel, and how powerless I feel against it all when it gets that loud and that intense. And for me, it was so much shame. It was so much shame of how can I, have a podcast? How can I do the intuitive healing work that I do? How can I guide people through this process if this is how I feel at the moment? And it was so, so, so much shame. And also because I've been in this state for many years in my early 20s that I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live in that way anymore. And especially when you felt the levels of joy and happiness and gratitude and love and excitement and the magic of life. And when you feel that you've lost that, I think that is absolutely terrifying. And that's where a lot of the fear came from. Like, is this ever going to end? And all I can say is that yes, it does end. And as Brad Yates says in the EFT videos on YouTube, which I highly recommend, he's got thousands for absolutely everything. And I think when you're in that situation, like 3 to 5 minutes of doing something is just to do it with him, and he guides you through it and everything, I think is really just the start of so much. But he says taking responsibility for your own well-being and health. And it is that part of it. It is saying, okay, mind, you are not running the show anymore. I hear you, I acknowledge you, I thank you for trying to keep me safe up to this point. However, no, this is not how I want to live my life anymore. And that's the thing that kind of got me through and making those first steps. And it's it's so hard. If you're in this situation right now, I would not wish it on anyone. And it is very scary for so many different reasons. And at the same time, from a more energetic, spiritual perspective, I do see it as a awakening, as another level for you to work through to truly connect to your true self, like another layer to unpeel. And I pulled a card yesterday because it was for the for the new moon and also for this coming year. And I said, give me a message for right now. And it was the blue flame, and it was, yeah, spiritual awakening. Give yourself time for this integration. And I was like, oh, cool, another one, great. um, and it is, yeah, it's terrifying. I'm not gonna lie, it was a very, very, very hard um couple of weeks. And of course, there were moments where I felt like I came back and I was like, oh, okay, I've cleared that. That's good. Like that was a big thing. And then it would just keep going. And fundamentally, it was my mind. It was completely my mind. And I'm so grateful to those that helped me work through the past lives, who helped me work through the energetic side of it, because once I felt that I was much more safe again in my body, that was when I could start questioning and be like, is this the truth? Because it felt like the truth. I think that's the scary bit. It feels so true that yes, I am a worthless human being, that no one is ever going to listen to my podcast, that I'm never going to get any clients again. It's all of these fears that if a friend told you them, they'd be like, well, that's not true, is it? But when you feel that it's within your body, and so I kind of want to round off that topic because I don't want the whole of the end of the year episode to be all about that side of things. But at the same time, I was describing it to friends that it felt like because of all the work that I've done over the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it felt like all of these beliefs that I hadn't had in so, so long. And, when people meet me, they say, you're very positive, you're a very happy person. So it's like, what is going on? Like, where have these come from? And it almost felt like all the last like dregs of these beliefs that were still within my body somewhere, they almost like all merged into one, and they all like got power by being together. And it was just this like final squeeze of 2024 of, right, we're going to make her address every single one of these things. And I think the really challenging bit is that your mind will pick up on the situations that you're in at the moment or decisions that you have to make, and will make it all about them. For example, I had a decision whether to go to one place or another, and it told me stories of what going to that place would mean, what going to that place would mean, what this would mean about myself. And it's just that stories are incredible. I'm not going to lie, they are elaborate, they are so in depth, they are so, I don't want to say well researched, but they've got so many different perspectives, and it's like, oh my God. So anyway, I really, really hope that no one listening to this is in this position. But if you are, do something in terms of change your routine, change what is your mind doing, do something physical, change what your mind is doing right now. Listen to some music or jump up and down. And I know it sounds so simple, but I know in those situations it is so, so hard. And when you start coming back to yourself, when you start, I describe it as coming home, there will be tears because it is like a reunion in my eyes. And you will remember what it feels like. And you won't just remember, you will feel what it feels like to feel that joy, that excitement, that magic of life. And you've got even more of a drive to hold on to that and to remember it and to treasure it and nurture it so that your mind doesn't go off in a million directions every single moment. And it's amazing how quickly you can turn it around. I've been through this for, yeah, a couple of weeks, and within 4 or 5 hours yesterday of making different choices, making different decisions, and just being like, okay, I need to get the basics. Have I slept? What time do I want to wake up? Let's eat something. Let's go outside and get some daylight. Like, it was very fundamental things that kind of got me to this place, just over 24 hours later, where I am so excited. And I sent a voice note to a friend, be like, I'm back. And that's what it feels like. So, um, I don't know if that helps. I hope that helps. But what I also wanted to share about 2024 is just a few little snippets that I've been thinking about the last few weeks as I was thinking about, okay, what was 2024 for me? And I think we so easily put people on a pedestal and based on our own perceptions. And we have this impression, or we think, oh, this person is XYZ. And I had an experience where I told them, I was like, yeah, I really think this of this person because they do this or they work for this company. And they just turned around and looked at me and they were like, "Hmm, that's not great. Like, that's not, the company that you think it is, or that's not how you've just described it. That's not the reality of it." And in that moment, that perception just shattered. And it was such a weight lifted off me because I had put someone on this pedestal and always, compared myself to them, or, this is why, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worth whatever it was. And then this literal perception just fell away. And it was, oh my goodness, how our brain and our mind has so much control over us. And yeah, I mean, there's so many other topics that I could touch on, but I think continuing on, just to summarize from what I was speaking about earlier, is that I've written how looking at your shadow lightens everything. And that was for the last 6 months what I've really been addressing. I kind of felt like I had this heaviness around me, and I would have these moments of pure elation and pure joy where I felt like the cloak had been taken off. And then over time it would slowly, and I was like, oh, I've lost that magic again. And there were some times this year where it was such magic, such alignment, such manifestation, and it was so easy and it was incredible. And then this cloak would start coming back on, and I it got to a point where I was like, I really want to address this because actually it's not how I want to continue living. And I started looking at that kind of shadow element, and it was very enlightening. Talking about light, and I mention it in my visibility podcast with Kat's Lale that those 6 months, my word was visibility. I said, I'm ready to be more visible. I'm ready to step into something new. And all of this stuff came up around that because I claimed something, and the blocks that were still there that were stopping me from getting to that point that I wanted to get to, they came up to be addressed. And for me, shadow is not necessarily, I think a lot of people associate the shadow side with the jealousy, the shame, the guilt, the anger and whatever. And yes, I definitely obviously have that side of myself and things, but at the same time, the shadow for me, when I realized when I was doing a lot of this work, and was actually that I was so scared of my light, and the fears that were around that. That was a really interesting experience and learning. And I think it's, that saying of, everyone's afraid of failure, when actually so many people are afraid of success and what that would mean, and the fears that are associated with that. And I think especially being a light worker and the work that I do, there is this isn't the first lifetime that I'm doing this. And I previously we have been persecuted. And I was listening to something this morning, and it was, a woman saying now is in the Western world, in many, many places, it's now probably the safest time ever to be doing the work that we're doing now. Whether that's, um, energy healing to aromatherapy to sound baths to any type of kind of this reconnection to our core self and the work that we do around that. And it was just really, it was a very, very interesting process. And following on from that, there's this thing, realization of, when things do fall into place, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. As I was saying earlier, when you claim something, the blocks that have stopped you from getting there before will be coming up to be cleared so that the way forward can be much easier. But I think it's sometimes, yeah, when things start becoming easy, they can be scary because it's like, oh my gosh, the things that I've been dreaming of are actually happening now. And there's almost like an element of predictability, especially if you are into kind of intention setting and, really creating your own reality. And when that starts to happen and you realize the power that you have within you, that can be really scary. That can be like, oh, okay, we can maybe can't hold that power within us. And that's also why we self-sabotage, etc., etc. But I think I'm so excited. I'm so, so excited for 2025 because of a number of different reasons. But I feel that, I mean, one of my goals for next year is to really do as much as I can, do as much healing and clearing as I can around um, my thoughts because there's almost like an addiction element to it of like, oh, let's see what else I can say that's terrible about me. And there's almost a feeling of, yeah, like, I was going to say worthlessness, but a feeling of powerlessness around the letting my mind run the show. And I've had it said to me so many times by psychic, by astrologers. Everyone's like, you think too much. And I've never really understood what that meant until now. And it's like, okay, enough is enough. And I actually pulled a card um, last night for this coming year, and there were lots of different elements to it. But the one of the major ones was speak your truth, which I will do my best to continue to do so, and at the same time healing those thoughts. And it was the angel of diet and nutrition. I was like, I don't really think necessarily about the food or anything. It's very intuitive what I put into my body. And I read on a little bit and it was like, your diet is also the thoughts that you put into your mind. And so, yeah, I'm saying it out loud so people can hold me accountable. I've said it on a podcast. So, yeah. And I think with the self-expression and being honest about what I'm saying and being true to myself, there is definitely that connection to your heart and connection to love. And when you speak from a place of love, you are speaking from a place of honesty. And I was having a conversation um, earlier today around the confusion that can come up when we're not speaking from our heart and when we're trying to say something, but we don't necessarily have the words or the ability to say it from our heart quite yet. And so we try to say other words and we try to say things, and it can create confusion for that, not only for the person saying it, but for the person receiving it as well. And I think it was a really interesting conversation around how the words that we speak, if they're not from that truth, if they're not from our heart, then they will get convoluted, they will get confused. And yeah, I think there's so many other things, but yeah, I've had lots of new gifts and abilities come through this year, and I think I'm still integrating them and kind of realizing them because I think a lot of people, when they're in this space and this is what they do, I'm definitely realizing that things that I've grown up with that have always been there for me are not necessarily in inverted commas normal. And I need to start recognizing those things and realizing that this is an ability, this is in some way something that I can help other people with, and another gift that I can use to help other people. So that's exciting. And yeah, my notes just say calming our nervous system before anything else, which of course is the most important. And yeah, feeling safe within our body and calming our nervous system when you are going into the depths of the past lives and things makes such a huge difference. Because I think also when you are going into these spirals, it is very strange and confusing because there may be moments where you're thinking things and you're like, where on earth has that come from? And if you are really diving deep into every single thought, which I wouldn't recommend, it is about, it is very confusing when you're like, but where did that come from? Like, where has that story come from? Where has that belief come from? And then when you do a lot of past life stuff or the energetics around a lot of this stuff, it becomes very obvious and it becomes very clear, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, on that note, I will wrap up there on New Year's Eve. And funnily enough, there have been no fireworks. There have been fireworks for the last couple of hours. And when I do my podcast, they go silent. So I'm very grateful. And I will see you next year. Oh, it's going to be a great one. It really, really is. And the message that I keep getting is that it's all falling into place. And the things that you have been dreaming of the last few years, the desires, the wants, it's all just, you're just gonna get it. And yeah, for me, it's really working around my mindset now and noticing where that pattern of thinking takes me and bringing it back to somewhere that I want to. And that is through surrounding myself with people who are inspirational and positive and are really true to themselves, so that when I think back over stories in my head, I have those positive stories to reinforce what is my truth and what is my reality. And my final thing is going to be whether you're in that situation or not, where your mind is running 100 miles an hour, it is very, very easy in those moments to give your power away to someone else. And I was definitely susceptible to this. And I think it's because you don't trust yourself, you don't feel safe within yourself. So you go to someone potentially that you trust. And I think this is where there is some fear around this kind of, I don't want to say industry, but this environment, around the wellness space or going into the more energetic, spiritual side of things, because there are a lot of people out there, unfortunately, who aren't leading from the heart, who aren't there with the best intentions for you, and will be creating and saying they can do things for you when you're in that most vulnerable position, because potentially they've been in that vulnerable position and they know how easy it is to fall into something and to give your power away to someone. And actually, the biggest shift for me, now it's just coming back to me now, the biggest shift for me yesterday that really turned me 180 degrees was realizing I am so grateful for all of the support that I've had and all of the sessions that I've had, because I do it with people that I trust. And at the same time, I have the power within me. I know what my truth is. My truth is. And when I like reiterated and said that out loud to myself, oh yeah, I fully walk around talking to myself now. That is great and so normal. And you can pretend that you're doing a voice note, right? Um, but when I said, for the last 4 years, I have been so in tune with my intuition, and maybe 3.5 years. And I've done things that I'm so proud of, and I've put myself in situations that I never thought I'd be in, and I've got myself through a lot of different random, bizarre things. And it was always about connecting back to my truth. It was always about allowing the external to fall away and coming back to me. And it's been very interesting this year. Sorry, this is going on little bit longer, but it's been very interesting this year because I've been talking to a lot of different people who have different belief systems, who maybe are more religious than spiritual, who maybe started with religion and then went into more spirituality. And fundamentally, it is all very, very similar, just said in different words. However, for me, it was a very big reminder that I never want to give my power to anything else, whether that's something bigger than me, whether that's someone else. And it's about holding that power within me and knowing that power is within me. And yes, it is connection. For me, it's a connection to source, it's a connection to what people might call God. However, the way that I view it is very much it is my power and it is the power that I have, this soul in this human body. That's my power. And I think the more that we give our power away to anything or anybody else, that's when we can actually create even more of a spiral because you are handing over that energy out of your body almost. So, yeah, I think even if you listen back to my very first episode, I probably was saying the same thing about all of our knowledge, all of our wisdom is within us. That intuition is so strong. And, when it's telling you, go and move, go and shake, go for a walk, that is your body and your intuition and something within you that knows what is good for you and knows what it is that you need to thrive because we are all here to thrive. We're not here just to survive. And it's it can be very hard because we've got so much external noise and which then infiltrates into our minds and creates all those internal stories. But it is paramount and key that you know the power within you and you know the strength that you have within you. And of course, I do believe that, I have a team of guides. When I'm working, when I'm living, I work with energy. I work with source energy and earth energy. And that's a whole other episode. But it's still that my power is within me. My power is mine and my truth is mine. And if that's not someone else's truth, that's fine. But I know my truth, I know my power, and that's where the power comes from. And so, on that note, the fireworks just started again. I will wrap it up there. But I hope that you all have a wonderful New Year's Eve. And I'll do a bit more about what 2025 may bring for you or will bring for you. But it's exciting. We are seeing so many changes already. And it does feel that 2024 is really wrapping up. Like, I've never been a big fan of New Year's Eve, but it does feel that this year is real wrapping up. And tomorrow is something new, is a real new energy. Okay, I'm sending you all so much love. I hope that you have had some time to reflect on your own year. And if you are in that situation that I was describing earlier or resonate with any of that, I'm always here if you just want to chat or if you want to ask a question or anything. Because as I said, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It's incredibly tough. But if there's anything I can say, is there is a brighter side to the other side. And keep going. Sending you all so much love, and I'll see you next year. Thank you so much for being here.